All right, we have about a minute or so here, and then we will be able to get started. Thank you to everybody that is patient with us while we do our final setup and then wait for any of our last minute stragglers. As I mentioned earlier, I always have a couple, so I like to give those people an opportunity. I'm not going to make everybody wait too long to wait, though, because that's just not fair. You guys were here on time. Really?
She wants to make sure everybody sees her.
She really does. I told you, when I'm speaking to the computer, she knows and she wants everybody to see her. She definitely likes attention. All right, I think it's time for us to go ahead and do introductions. I'm going to attempt to move my cat. We'll see if she'll stay out of the way. Hello, my name is Bethany Pearson. I am the program coordinator for the Everett Roehl Marshfield Public Library, and thank you to everybody that has joined us this evening. We are so happy to have you here for our spoken history, and I got to remember the name of it, the History Lost, Marshfield's Automotive Businesses. So I've actually been informed that this evening there was so much information that we wanted to share with you that we're going to be doing a part 1 and a part 2. So to this evening, Vicki, I believe we are going to be covering the lost automotive businesses of Marshfield, correct?
That is correct.
And then we are going to be doing a second part 2, which will be covering the automotive businesses in the area that have changed over the years and all of what those changes are and all that fun information. In the 1 hour reminder email that went out, I did include the link so that you could register, but I am also going to be sending out an email tomorrow that is going to be a reminder about that will also include that email. If you were unable to make the next month's program, because it will be on Monday, May 10th at 6:30 p.m. If you're unable to make that work, we did try to put it out far enough so that you could see if you could fit it into your schedule. But if you are unable to, all of these programs are streamed live to the library's YouTube channel, and you can view them at any time afterwards. And I have also included the link to our YouTube channel in those emails so that you'll be able to bookmark them, save them, have them on hand wherever you need them. But now that I've gotten that part out of the way, I'm just going to let you know if you have any comments or you just want to chat or something, if you're noticing that you can't hear something, there's some kind of a visual issue, please use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. And then if you have questions specifically for our presenter regarding this evening's topic, please use the Q&A function. If you get them mixed up, it's all right. I'm able to make it work. But if we keep them separate, it also makes it a little bit easier for me to help people throughout the program itself, and then also keep the questions on topic and organized so that I don't accidentally miss anybody's questions. Other than that, I think I am done. So I'm going to introduce our presenter for this evening, Vicki Schnitzler, and I am going to mute myself, turn off my camera. I will be here keeping an eye on things. So if you need any help, let me know, but I'm going to hand it over.
Thanks, Bethany. And thank you to the Everett Roehl Marshfield Public Library for the opportunity of hosting our spoken history series. Before I get started, Bethany did kind of allude to the fact that there was so much information about tonight's program that I had to split it because I didn't think everybody wanted to stay here until 9 o'clock listening to me. But there were so many different businesses where the buildings have been lost. And that's what I'm going to primarily be focusing on tonight. And then on May 10th, when we do part 2, we're going to be focusing on the businesses who have buildings that have really changed over the years. So sometimes they're still maybe recognizable, sometimes they're not. So that's kind of how we're dividing it. This is also going to be the first in a series of talks that the City of Marshfield Historic Preservation Committee is going to be putting out. In the past, we've been doing the brochures for the walking tours and the driving tours and some of our spot destinations like the airport, 2442, the round barn out at the fairgrounds. So those are all different brochures that we've done. But when we start really digging into some of Marshfield's history, there is just way too much to try and put into a brochure. So using this format, we can include a lot more information. So with that, I would like to start tonight's presentation. So how many auto-related businesses do you remember in Marshfield? And there you can see a couple of the past ones that we have that were located on North Central Avenue. And how many of those businesses are still around? How many of those buildings that were home to those businesses have totally disappeared? And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be looking at some of those buildings that were home to these businesses that no longer exist. And there, for example, we're going to be spending a little bit more time about that picture. But if you're trying to get a gist of where that is located, put yourself on the street across from Emmanuel Lutheran Church or their school and look towards the parking lot to where the past City Hall was. And that is the home on that corner of South Chestnut and 7th Street is where you would have found this building. And we'll talk more about that as we go through the presentation tonight. So let's start our tour. What I'm going to be doing, I've broken the talk down into several different parts. I'm going to start with the business district downtown, work my way south along Central Avenue, and a few of the little side streets that are not too far off of Central. And then we're going to go up to the north side, and I believe it's the west side and then the east side. So we're going to be kind of jumping around, but if you can visually focus where we're at, I'll try and keep you on board. So we're going to start, this one is actually along Chestnut Avenue, and this was right up next to the railroad tracks. Baltus was one of our movers and shakers when it came to the automotive industry, actually as far as service stations. This station called the Tegeline was in business about 1921. It was also a part of the home service station as well, and they kind of progressed into that. And you can see their little garage over on this side where they actually would clean your cars or a car laundry. A few years later, again, another picture as they start to change gases, they start to improve, add a little bit more on to their business. And again, a little bit later, we're still having the home service station. You can see the garage just past where the pumps are. And you can also see a little bit about North Chestnut there, some of the old businesses as you hit the railroad track, and even in the background, you can see the steeple of St. John's Church. Again, we're still at that home service station. We've now progressed into the 1940s. And again, you know, they've gone from 1 to 2 bays for repairs and things. So they're growing right along with Marshfield. But by the 1960s, they had some other things that were going to be happening. And that business that they had at 2 South Chestnut Avenue was left. And shortly, well, not shortly after that, but today, that location, if you're hungry, is Scotty's Pizza. So that location is still thriving, but it just doesn't have a gas station on it anymore. We're going to go out to Central Avenue now. And for those of you that know Marshfield, everybody was pretty in tune with Hudson's Grill. Well, this gas station is located just to the north of where Hudson Grill later was located. This was the Owen Higgins Standard Station. Originally, it was built by Don Trozen, and it opened in September of 1941. It was taken over by Chet Luck as Chet Luck's Super Service in 1943. Just some of the other businesses that have been in this location: Gorman's Standard Super Service in 47, Jack's Standard Service in 1948, and then Higgins reopened the station in 1949. Unfortunately, that building was razed in 1974, so it is no longer around. Here are some later pictures when the station is not there. Again, the Battery Unlimited building, which became Hudson's Restaurant. Little information about it, that it was built in 1898 as a warehouse for the William Null Hardware Company. And that front portion was built in the mid-1920s. And later on, the back part was built in 1941 for the E. Ebby Farm Implement Company. And then Batteries Unlimited actually moved in January of 1977. But during all of that time, that space immediately to the left of their doors, where the station had been, remained empty. Here we have Hudson's Grill, what many people remember. It was opened in 2002, and that little area where they had their patio was actually the area where the gas station was. And unfortunately, Hudson's Grill closed in 2013, and the building is still closed. So if anybody's looking to find a building where they want to get busy with a restaurant, that's a really good location right on Central Avenue. And here it is today. We're going to jump over, I guess, to the east side temporarily here. This one just kind of jumped in there. This is Brandt Oil Company, and it was torn down in 1999 to make room for the boulevard. So those buildings are no longer there. And when I tried to take a current day location of it, it was kind of tricky because the landscaping has totally changed. There's been land added up and down, and it was just kind of difficult to get an exact location. But I did kind of give you a gist of where it might have been based on what today's images look like. Okay, we're going to go back towards Central Avenue. We're looking over towards West First Street, very close to where Baltus's had their station, but not quite as far over. We're still on this side of that block. And you can see a used car lot, the one arrow pointing down to it, and then also a city service station kind of in the middle. There was an alley actually separating both of those. What does it look like today? Well, that is the part of the parking lot behind our Marshfield Police Department and behind some of the businesses that are located downtown. That real quick shot that you saw there was actually for a business that happened to be located at 108 East First Street. Again, it was a service station. And this is the location of it today, where the Thomas House actually got moved to. And this is right alongside of the boulevard on the south side. Okay, we're going to move south just a little bit. And we're looking here at a picture of Hanson's Brothers Garage. And you can also see that we have a newspaper clipping that we found from 1931. The picture that is there is actually from about 1949. That site became Wilbur Vault Works. And that's the building that is there today. And I believe Wilbur's is now at a different location. And here we're going off a little bit to the west of Central Avenue, just in that first block. This area that I'm going to be talking about in the next few minutes right now had an awful lot of activity in it. There were a lot of stations. And as you go through, you're going to notice that the numbers change a lot. Marshfield was, in 1948, actually revamped all of their street numbers and measured out each spot by a certain distance of feet and put a number on it. And then they measured out the next distance. I believe it was 11 feet or 22 feet, whatever they were going by. And the numbers change back and forth. Also, businesses kind of fluctuated. So if a business was in one place and then they moved out and the other business next door sometimes kind of moved over, you're going to see a lot of but this in the same location. So we're going to start at 108 West 2nd. If you go to a current day map, 108 West 2nd is actually on the east side of the alley, but the businesses, for the most part that we can tell at this point, were on the west side. And if anybody has information to help me figure that out, I would be more than happy if you'd share it with me. My email and my phone number is going to be at the end of the presentation. So please, I'm always looking for information to make things more clear. Okay, again, at that same location, even though the street address is kind of changing, here we have Felkers moving in to what was called the former post office. But again, it was in that same area. That was in 31. 33, we have Fire and Stengel. They're leasing a garage in that area. Like I said, it was a very busy area. We have W.N. Corey, and he was a little ways from home, from Idaho Falls. And he opened what at that point was the former Blodgett garage. Blodgett did own the building there. And we're not exactly sure if the back part of some of these buildings served as a garage and there was a business in front, or exactly how the lay of the land was. We don't have real good pictures of a lot of the things. What we go by pretty much at this point is the newspaper, and through newspapers.com and being able to clip some of the ads, we have a lot of the addresses. And again, like I said, because things kind of move within that one area and the street numbers changing, numbers don't always coincide. Again, Corey Motor Company was there. I love watching the old ads. Here we can see that Bertha Cell Motors opened up in 1954. And the location that we're talking about is located in that first block off of Central Avenue to the west on the south side of the road. If you can see the building that red arrow is pointing to, that is actually the professional building now, or was. And that's where we are kind of believing that many of these businesses were located in that area. You can see here that Blodgett and Sons Company is still in charge of that location, even though they are renting it out to different people. Hughes Brothers Service was one of the next businesses that was in that location. And you can see up into the 60s, C.E. Blodgett and Sons actually redid the building and they turned it into office space. So even though it was no longer a garage, it was still being utilized. And again, the face of that professional building that you saw in the back of that picture is what was more so known by a lot of us in some of the later years. Again, some of the businesses that were in that area, in that professional building that had been the garage. You can see the list. There were attorneys, dentists, beauticians, lawyers, just all kinds of different businesses, insurance agents. Unfortunately, that professional building, and you can see a bit of it there in the corner, was demolished in 2014 to make way for a park, or the Wenzel Plaza Park. And a lot of people are enjoying that space now. Again, here we do have one of the older pictures from that area. This was when it was an F&S garage, Frieders and Schneider, and also the Fire and Stengel, different ones, but they had been in it at different time and kept the name F&S. Look at their names, it matched, so they kept the name. Interesting to see the inside of some of the garages when they were working on different things. A lot different than the types of mechanics and different things that we see that today's auto technicians use when they work on cars. And as I said, the current location today is right on the west side of the alley there. You can see that dark brown building. Right to next to it is the alley that goes through, and then the rest of the open space goes into the Wenzel Plaza. Okay, we're going to jump back over to Chestnut. And here we're down on the corner, 110 South Chestnut. This is the northwest corner of South Chestnut and 2nd Street, or West 2nd Street. So it kind of gives you an idea of where we're at. And this was Felker's garage. You can see that where the cars are parked, there is a little space there yet that doesn't have a building in it. So that portion of the building was back to the north, just a little bit along South Chestnut. And then over the years, you can see the garage is still there, but they added on warehouses and more bays for working. And again, here they're moving to their new location. I love the trucks and different things that they had. Again, as things changed in the area, again, the same service station is still there, but you can see all the different bays for service and things that were added on over the time, over the years. This is from about 1964. And then Baltus, and this is about the time that Baltus left that little station that was up farther where Scotty's Pizza, and he moves down to this area. A few years difference in there, but shortly after that is when he came down here. And of course, he had to make changes as well. This is by the mid 1970s. They have their self-serve Boco station. And of course, those of you that are familiar with Marshfield names all remember Vern Baltus, who was the monarch of the Baltus industry, and we miss him a lot. Again, as time progressed, Baltus Company had an express lube, so you could go in and have things taken care of real quickly. This was even operational, and this picture was actually from September of 2017. Today, Baltus is out of business. The company was sold, and this station, that corner, actually is sitting idle right now. So if anybody's looking for an area to open up, this one's available. We're going to go back a block right now, right across the street, actually, from where we were before with the 108 and the 110. This is across the street. Hunting was obviously a very big thing here in Marshfield. You can see people with their deer, with their bears, with whatever type of thing they were hunting at the time. This picture is from the late 1930s, early 40s. In the background, behind the car, off to the right, you can see where Alberson's station was located. And again, here was one of the cats that they were able to catch on one of their hunting excursions, I believe. Again, you can see Alberson's across the street in the background, and it did expand to just more than one business front. It was actually taking up 2 or 3 of them as time progressed. And today, if you look at the probably the far left of the Hotel Charles, is where Alberson's actually started. Hotel Charles originally only was built up to the alley, and then later years it jumped over the alley and went farther to the west. And as it did that, it started pushing some of those businesses out of the way. I believe in actuality, probably those last, if you look at the bottom, like the last 3 to 6 windows where that little door is, and then continuing off to the left or to the west, would have been the area that Alberson's would have been located in. Back out to Central, a couple signs that some of us are familiar with. Super America hasn't been around for a while, but Quick Trip has, but not at this location. This is North Central Avenue, just south of Arnold Street, on the southwest corner. And you can see just from the landscape there, Central Avenue, you see the sidewalk, and then just to the right of that is Central Avenue going to the north. And this was the original location of the Quick Trip, which would have been at the corner, and we'll show you that in just a few minutes here. And then just to the south of that was Super America. The buildings across the street, as you know, Central Avenue is the street that's going through there right now. Those buildings are no longer there, and they have been replaced by the new Quick Trip. So the Quick Trip left the corner where it was, and then as those buildings were demolished later on, that's where the new Quick Trip went in. Couple things for nostalgia here is inside of the Super America station. It was such a neat place. They each had, or they had little areas that you could actually go to. And here you can kind of see Mom's special area. And now today, this is the area that Super America sat on. This is the Nails and Spa, otherwise known as Founders Square. There are other businesses in there as well. We're going to go Across the street now to the south, and this is the Citgo station. The two-story building that you see behind the Citgo station was one of our famous cafe buildings. It was Chick's Cafe, Jimmy's Cafe. It's been home to a lot of different cafes here in Marshfield, just so that you get a drift or an idea of where this gas station was actually located. It was right next door. And then today, that spot is being occupied by Domino's Pizza. So you can kind of have an idea of what was there and what's there, or what it looks like today. We're going to go back a couple blocks to the north again. And again, you see a couple different address numbers up there, again, because of as things changed over time, the addresses also changed. We are located right now on the southwest corner of Arnold and South Central, or actually North Central, I'm sorry. This is Felker's Standard Oil filling station. It was, one of the earlier filling stations. You could actually drive right up to the pumps. The guys would come out, take care of your vehicle. And you can see the canopy there, which was really something beyond its years. It was there pretty early. This picture is actually from 1922. And as they expanded over the years, the building increased in size. This was from actually 1959. Later on, Gary's Northside Skelly Station was also located in that same spot. And they actually opened in March of 1969. They moved to a new location out on Veterans in 1976 and became Gary's Auto. So if you're trying to follow the history, which I'm not taking a company per se and giving you the complete history, I'm giving you more a history of the buildings. Again, in that same location, here's Gary's Northside Skelly Station. And this is where the first Quick Trip on that corner was located. So we had Quick Trip, and then just to the south of it, years later, we also, or I should say years earlier, we had the Super America. But Quick Trip stayed in that location for a while before it jumped across the street. Here's a few more pictures. It opened back in 1986. And like I said, it closed and moved across the street to 101 North Central. This is that same building today. It is now home to Planet Earth, a health food store. But you can see the shape of the building has not changed over the years. Okay, from that corner, we're going to jump to the north. Across the street, we're going to be at 200 North Central right now. This is on the northwest corner of North Central and West Arnold. Again, this was a standard station. This was Fred's standard service, and he was there for a while. By 1986, we had Dick Propp, who took over, and it became an Amico service. That building was raised shortly after May of 1993 to make room for our new Walgreens store that was coming to town. There you can see, this is today. The building that's on the right half of the photo is actually, or was, our new Walgreens store. It has now moved up to the north, as we see a lot of our businesses moving around town to get a better location. And right now, this building is used as the Nash Law Firm. There is the Lift Gym in it, plus several other businesses. The gas station that we were referring to was actually located in that parking lot area. Okay, we're going to go down just a little bit farther south. We're kind of still in the main business district. We're down towards 6th Street now. We've been up on North 2nd, North 1st. We're going to go down about 7-8 blocks to the south. We're going to move around a little bit to a site from 201 West 6th Street. This is actually the back of the building, which was kind of hard to see, but again, they seem to add a lot of interesting things to their wall there, just for people to keep busy watching. This is the rear of Muncie's garage from back in the 1950s. As time progressed, the building was changed, taken over, and Syncor building was, I think part of the garage was utilized when they made it into Syncor building in 2002 or around those years. But that little house, Syncor building, are all gone. You can see another building off to the right, kind of in the background there. I'm going to show you a picture of what it looks like today. This is our City Hall. It was one of our banks until the bank built a new building and moved. And then our current City Hall moved from its location and overtook the bank building. The building that you saw off in the distance is, you can't see it on this photo, but it is still off on the right-hand side. It's still there. We're going to move out another block past where Alberson's was, on that same block where Felkers and Baltus were very active on that corner across from our post office. We're going to go down the road just a little bit farther to the west. We're in an area of 205 to 207 West 2nd Street. Again, a lot of activity in this area. We have an ad for auto sales and service. It just gives you a little bit of idea. Some of the things that they did. They had cars for sale. Look at that, 5-passenger touring car for $885, a Roadster for $885. I wish those prices were around today, but this is from back in 1923. And then by 1938, Pat Motor Company was in that location. Again, they trade in, we will trade in your old car as part of payment, convenient terms. Again, just some of the different things they had, and they also served as a Chrysler Plymouth dealer. Same location, but now Mech Chrysler Plymouth has taken over that location, and we have a picture of it with some of the cars. An ad from the newspaper from 1946, just to give you a little bit more validity. Again, looking at some of the other cars in 53 and 1954. And then Mech sells his business to Berthasell Motors. Berthasell kind of redoes the front of the building at that point. And I know there's some, you can see some, this is not a current picture from 1950s. This is a couple years later, but it's still that location. Berthasell was there for a while until Wayne Cadillac Olds took over in September of 1955. And here you can see one of the ads from September of 55 for Wayne Cadillac. In 1958, they had a fire. Estimated cost of the damage at that point in time was $50,000. And that was a lot. They were still in business in January of 1959, because you can see on the right-hand side an ad for some of the best used car deals that they had available. And it was interesting, after the fire, they mentioned that none of these cars had been damaged by the fire. So take it as you will. Some of the other businesses that were also in that location, and because it looked like a wider warehouse, it actually had several addresses. And I think over the years, a business may have been in one location and another one next door, but they kind of, it gets kind of gray as far as who was exactly where. And again, we have that address change that the city put out in 1941. So we're kind of dealing with some of those changes as well. Wisconsin Auto Company, Bauman Auto Incorporated, and there's one of their ads that was in the newspaper. Grain Belt Beer Depot. How did that ever get in there? But I have a feeling because it was a depot, they were using one of those warehouse areas probably for storage. And then we have Stainless and Repair Incorporated. They were in there for quite a while, up into the 1990s. After that point, well, actually during that point, part of it was used by the Sieg Auto Parts, and you can see the area that they were using. They were actually on just one side of the building. It was Sieg Wausau, and you'll notice that over time it changes names just to Sieg Auto Parts or Sieg Company. Again, some of the different changes that took place. And then by 1996, it was available for sale. And today it's sitting there. I believe there is something in it, but I couldn't tell for sure what it was. Someone told me that there was a women's group or something that met there. I have no idea for sure. So if anybody has more information, again, please be helpful and share some of that information so that we can document Marshfield's history just a little bit better. Okay, we're going to jump across the street. We're still over on West 2nd Street, but we're now on the opposite side of the street. In the middle of the block, Bauman Buick moved over there and built this brand new building and showroom. And here's another picture after it got finished. And they were dealing with Buicks at the time. Now, they didn't stay there for long. If you can see some of the shadow that's off on the left-hand side of the photo, there was another building that wasn't too far away, and it was our Marshfield post office. That's where the post office had finally been set. And when they first opened, it was a smaller building, but as Marshfield kept growing, they needed more room for sorting mail and for some of the different things that they did. Plus, they needed a parking lot area for all of their trucks. And so actually this building was taken down. Today, and if you can see the way over at the far left of the building, you can see the original part of the building that has the trim work that goes around it. The chimney is actually a part on the original building. There's kind of a hip roof there. But then there's an addition that comes off the back where those 4 windows are, and then actually goes out to the bays where the mail trucks load up for deliveries. But anyway, that addition, the bay areas, and then the parking lot was what took over the space from Bauman's Auto. Again, down the street just a little bit, we're still at about a half a block. In other words, right next to where Bauman's was, just off to their right-hand side was Graham's Auto Sales. And again, same picture, because the parking lot actually ate up some of the area that was at that point in time Graham's Auto. We're going to move back out to Central Avenue now. We're going to go south and look at some of the businesses there. On the right, excuse me, the left-hand side of your photo there that you can see is the Ford dealership in Marshfield. And again, because it took up a wider space, again, it has several different numbers. One thing that I want to point out to you, this is one of the few, there are several pictures of the west side of the 300 block of South Central. This block no longer exists. All of those buildings are gone. But while they were still there, I'm going to talk about some of the different businesses that were in that end building. It was a Ford dealership. If you look on the building very closely, just above the windows on the second story, you can see the Marshfield Herald, the newspaper located up there a few years later. And so you can actually see the newspaper office up on top. The garage was down below. And then they also, from off on the left-hand side, you can't see it, but they had a ramp that you could actually get onto the ramp, and either it was the ramp, I don't think went all the way up, but I believe there was an elevator type system that they could actually get the cars up to the second floor as well to work on them. But again, an entire area. Here's a little bit better picture of the garage, and you can see where the garage sign is off on the left-hand side was one of the areas where they were able to go in and work on the vehicles. This is from the 1921 city directory, an ad and a photo, again, the Marshfield Herald up on top so that you can see they were still in that building as well. As time changed, they actually put in gas pumps out in front. And this was back in 1934. Again, right on the corner, you could actually kind of drive under their little canopy there and not have to get too wet while you were filling your vehicle up. Those buildings off to the right, Choice Meats, and some of those, there was a music shop in there, I believe, and some other businesses. Like I said, those buildings are all now gone. And this is what is there today, the BMO Harris Bank. Nice building that they built, but again, they took down that entire block for the bank to go in. Going up on the north side of Central, the numbers kind of go in consecutive order, but not, they jump around from north to south a little bit. So we're going to go back up to the north side. This is on the east side of North Central. This was the Marshfield Zephyr service. And this was from about 1958. 1969, another picture, a gentleman standing out in the service area by the gas pumps. And then this is the same day. Evidently, he must have had somebody taking his picture at the gas station that day. And there you can see the station behind him. In later years, and I'm not sure exactly if it was from 1988, this photo was taken in 1988 in August. It became Associated Sales and Leasing. The original building is gone, I believe, at this point. They put up this building instead. And they had a very good business. However, this shows you how good of a business they have, because this is today. This is Associated Sales and Leasing. and it is a lot larger than what it was. So kudos to Associated Sales. We're going to go back down on Chestnut right now. Remember the Baltus name that we saw earlier? This is about 3 blocks, 4 blocks to the south of where they were on the opposite side of the street. And they built their service station down here when they left the one up on the north side. This was built in about the 1960s. The picture was taken in about 1970. Behind or off to the back or to the left-hand side of the service station, you can see, I believe it's St. Matthew's Church. That church also is gone. And here you can see today's picture. You can see where the service station still was located, but then Baltus built, or the church was taken down, and Baltus built his office for Baltus Oil Company just to the north of where their gas station was. Back to Central. I love some of these old ads from some of the city directories. This one is for the Minor Peel Auto Company, again from 1921. We're going to see some of the things here. He took on a new partner as one left, new one came on. This is from in 1929. They are selling Dodge Brothers motor cars at this point in time, 1929. And then it became Jersley's Garage in 1931. By 1932, it was the Central Repair Shop. Oops, and then this is the area today. Actually, what you see there is the bridal salon over on the right-hand side. You see the Martial Arts Academy over on the left. The parking lot, or that void space in the center, is where the Mile or the Peel Minor car business and Jersley's, they were in that spot until they took the station down, and now it's a parking lot for those businesses. We're going to move another couple blocks to the south. We're at 453. This is on the east side of Central Avenue, actually right on the corner. We're looking at 5th Street right now, East 5th Street. The building, the tall 2-story building that's over on the left-hand side, goes out to the corner right to Central Avenue. And so you can kind of get an idea. The taller building is on Central. And then you can see that there is a dealership for Chevrolet cars to the back of Marshfield Oil. There was a connection between the owners. However, I'm not exactly sure what that was. But again, there was some type of a relationship there. So they were built right next to each other. This is from back in the 1940s. Here you can see the tall 2-story building. We're actually on West 5th Street, looking across Central towards that building right now. And you can see that underneath those 3 windows, they did have their pump service so that you could drive right up to get the gas. And again, that other set of buildings is back to the left of that tall building, just a little bit there. Back in 1986, it was Gordy's Variety Outlet. Marshfield Oil was gone at that point, and it was taken over by another business. You can also see a cafe, actually an outdoor cafe, or a portion of an outdoor cafe off to the left of that building, which became Chris's Sidewalk Cafe. Today, that same area looks a little bit different. It's now the Hardiker Park. There's a lot of historical murals on the walls if you ever get a chance to get down there. And then the building that the one set of murals on the left-hand side is actually when Chris's built out to the street, they got rid of the sidewalk cafe, and then a while later it became family restaurant. Right now it's closed. They're waiting for a new owner to take over. Again, another opportunity for you. Here we're going to go back to 1928. We're moving in that same block, or actually down a block. We're going to go into the 500 block now. You can see we have Hudson's Service off behind or to the left of where the three ladies are eating their ice cream, and just above where the baby and the mom and the buggy are. Again, a very busy place because there was an ice cream shop next door, but it didn't stay that way for a real long time. We also have the Palace Garage in that area. And then where the ice cream shop was, and down, and including more space down to the south, we have Berg Auto Company that built. And in 1948, this is what it looked like for Berg Pontiac. In 1952, this is inside of one of their service bays. Beautiful car. A few years later, 1964, he took on a partner, Mr. Reek, and this is out in their car lot. You can see some of the advertising that they had going on out there at that time. This is the front from 1984. And again, Berg's name is on there. I love, if you can look through the windows there, some of the circular office areas that are made out of wood were just beautiful. And then in probably 1986, the Baltus oil company took over and took the buildings down. And you can see where the canopy is, and also then where the store, their mart is, would have been where Berg Pontiac sat. And the space off to the left that's kind of open there was the area for the car lot. And that's actually used by Baltus for his car wash. You can go in there and then you turn and go into the back side of the building and come out way over on the far. You take a L drive in there and you come out to the right-hand side out onto Central. And this is what it looks like today. It is a BP gas station. Again, just a little bit farther here, we have 524 South Central across the street. It was a Franklin Marshfield company, and they sold Franklin motor cars. This is from the city directory back in 1921. Marshfield Motor was in there. And then it became S&S Garage, or S&S Chevrolet Company. Here you can see inside of their showroom. This was in the late 1920s that this picture actually took place. They moved to their new building. Remember 1613, that very first slide? I said we're going to talk about this later. Well, that was their new building that they moved to. The area that they moved out of here at 550 became the 10-pin bowling alley early in 1940. And then later on in 1940, it was taken over by Hub City Bowling. And that went at least until the 1970s and possibly a little bit later. There was a bar and a bowling alley right together. Today, it looks like this. This is Heinz and Printing. Again, it's a couple lots wide. but it became Heinz and Printing back in 1995. And this is actually a facelift that they did some years later. And this is what it looks like today. We're going to keep going south into the next block, 600 South Central. We have a neat little gas station here called Widham's Mobile Gas Station. The photo is actually dated back from 1932. Notice that on the right, you can see Normington's Laundry and Dry Cleaning. It's 2 stories. I believe there were apartments above it for people that were that owned the laundry. That was their home. Here's one of the parades, but in the background, you can see Normington's store. You can also see the station is now a mobile station. It's still there. In to the left of Normington's, you can see the old Marshfield Clinic, which became the new City Hall, which is now the old City Hall. But in the meantime, it actually added several more stories, and it was now 7 stories high. And then a little bit farther to the south, you can see one of our medical facilities that was added on to that. This is from 1959. And today, you can see the City Hall off on the side, I should say the old City Hall. And the space that would have been Normington's and the gas station is now Stroman's Park. Stroman was a firefighter who lost his life in the line of duty. And so he is being remembered by this park that was put in. But this is a picture from today. We're going to go to the back side of that street right now. As I said, remember that 613, this is where S&S moved to. And here's a couple or an ad from when they moved, their grand opening. They're showing 1940 Chevrolets starting bright and early Saturday morning. Here's one of their trucks. And Chet Stefik is riding in that truck. And it's actually sitting in front of their showroom. Again, another ad. This is what the building grew into. In the background, kind of towering over S&S, you can see them building the additional floors to the Marshfield Clinic at that point in time. In 1964, when Chet passed away, Dan Wheeler purchased the business, and along with Francis Ness, and this is what it was looking like at that point in time. And their sign that towered above the building so that it could be seen from Central Avenue. And today, here we're standing right in front of Emmanuel Lutheran, looking across Chestnut, and you can see an empty parking lot. That is where S&S and Wheeler Chevrolet once was. It now serves as a parking lot to the businesses located in that building right now. It is no longer City Hall. We're going to jump across the street over to 701 South Central. We have Texaco Station, also known as Little Diddy's Texaco. This was from back in 1964. Just to give you a lay of the land, you can see the station off on the lower right-hand side, and then we have Washington Square and Caro's Park grocery store. It is now Pick and Save. Unfortunately, that gas station is no longer there. The grocery store is, and as I said, it is Pick and Save. The parking lot still serves as a parking lot for the grocery store. And over the years, that gas station has been overtaken. It became numerous different businesses. Here it's in 1990 as the Junction State Bank. And today it serves as one of the stores for Verizon. Again, you can see it still has that kind of shape where that front corner is angled. So again, it is still that building, but it has definitely changed over the years. We're going to go down another block and jump over to the other side of the street where the Standard Oil bulk plant used to be. The buildings behind the lady off on the right-hand side actually are across Central Avenue, and that is a restaurant now. But we're going to try and get a little bit better idea of what the bulk plant looked like. Oh, here we are, 1942. One of the things that they did during the Depression was collect old tires that could be used for different things. All right. This is the railroad track that ran behind Standard Oil bulk plant. The plant, or part of the plant, is on the left-hand side, that one building that you see there. And there's even a side track that came right up next to it. You can see that just down from the upper level track. There's a lower level track. This was from back in the 1950s, Chicago Northwestern tracks, looking west from Central Avenue. And here we have two different pictures. The picture that's on the right-hand side is actually that building that we were just looking at on the back. The railroad tracks ran right behind it. There was kind of a parking lot area. And then if you look at the picture on the left-hand side, was where some of the service garages and the other part of the office were. And you, on the far right-hand side of that left picture, you can see part of the canopy from the other building that's off on your, in the picture on the right. Those buildings are no longer there. They have changed as well. And what you, we're now looking back up the hill towards where the railroad tracks are from down on the corner. This is now the Rivers Restaurant Bar and Grill, which is attached to our Holiday Inn. The Holiday Inn is off a little bit farther beyond the restaurant. Okay, behind the one building that we just saw was 9th Street, and this was directly across the street from that. Our Sinclair station. I don't see a dinosaur. I don't remember ever seeing a dinosaur, but I know people have asked where the dinosaur was, but it wasn't there at the time of this picture. Also notice this was also known as Winrow's Super Service. This was back from the 1950s or 60s. By 2002, it was Best Buy Auto. And you can see a building behind it. That is our brew pub building. It used to be Park and Ice Cream, but they now brew beer there, and it is a large restaurant, actually 2 different restaurants. So something definitely, when you're in Marshfield, you might want to check that out. And Best Buy is now replaced by Enterprise. Again, same building. The brew pub is in the background, but when you're in Marshfield, check it out. We're going to go a couple more blocks, or another block to the south. We have Glenn Hughes Motors back in 1947, just a nice little building there. It gets a little bit larger. They add the pumps and another bay to the left there. This is 1948. By the 1950s, this is what's there, is Roy's Conoco. Again, a little bit change in the building. That building stuck around for a while. It became Jim's Transmission. This is from 2002. And Roy's Conoco, actually, that building then was demolished in December of 2014. And again, today, an empty lot where that station once stood. We're going to go down another block and jump over to the other side of the street, 1205 South Central. This is a picture that was taken back in 1936 of what Kelly Tire looked like. The picture actually was in the 1956 newspaper, talking about the three people that were in charge: Ed Reuter, George Conway, and one other employee. It was located where Hughes' used car lot moved into. This was in the late 1940s and 50s. It was the Hughes used car lot. And then that same area became Stengel Motors. And again, you can see that there was definite things added to the building and it changed considerably. That area now, or that building, I believe is still there underneath the steel siding. It is now Bullseye Sports. We're going to go down another block and jump across the street to 1301 South Central. You can see here the Phillips 66 station. It's actually located on this side of the street. About 1920, it was Dudley's service station. And here in 1925, there was a grocery store built in front, but you can see the cement slab that's in the foreground. That was where Mid-State Oil was going to make its home at some point in time. But Clement and Milby built their bays there, and it was the Clement Milby Mid-State Oil Company, again, 1925. Here we are looking at a couple of the gentlemen that worked there and a little bit of the inside. That station was taken down, or parts of it were taken down, and the Hub City Phillips 66, owned by Rudy Zorman, replaced it in the 1950s, early 60s. Again, as I'm going through these dates, I'm kind of going by items that I saw in newspapers, pictures from the Northwood County Historical Society, different things that I found. If any of our readers are noticing that something isn't quite right, please let me know so I can correct it. Again, we want to be able to save Marshfield's history as accurately as possible. Here's the Phillips 66 in the 60s. Today, it now serves as Vapors Vision Smoke Shop. It was a pizza shop for a while before that. Hub City Times, I believe, was located in a portion of it. There were a lot of different businesses, but a majority of it right now is taken over by the Vapors Vision Smoke Shop. Here we are on the other side of the street, Erickson Service Station. This is the corner of 14th and South Central. Actually, it's kind of between 13th and 14th Street. You'll see in just a few pictures here what I'm talking about. But again, this is Erickson's gas station off here on the right-hand side. This was from the 1940s. As they expanded in the 60s, you can see it's getting bigger. That portion of that building became the Zephyr Station, and it was still a Zephyr Station, or the Zephyr Station, in 1996. But you're going to see some major changes to it. You can see the road off to the right of that building. That is 13th going off to the west. And just to the right of that van that's underneath the canopy is 14th Street. It's a very narrow block right there. And then the store became a part of it. Again, part of the old store that's still there, and the old pumps out in front. This is what it looks like today. A new canopy. It's moved back a little bit. It's got a Subway shop, and their mart is off on the left-hand side. just a lot of activity going on. But again, you can see the 13th Street off on the right-hand side, and on the left above where that white SUV is 14th Street. So it's kind of between the two streets. We're going to jump just across the street to the south to 1400 South Central Avenue. Here we have the Central Shell or Super Shell in 1967. Here's what it looks like several years later in the 1980s in the daytime. Again, a very busy place. This was Strack's Super Shell. And in 1968, I found an article that they were celebrating their 5th anniversary being there. Years later, this is Jack's Car Corner now. This is 1998. There were probably some other businesses in there, but trying to find documentation for every single one was a little bit difficult. Car Corner was Midtown Auto for a very short period of time. You can see their logo actually above the 2 bay windows just below the roof line. There it is a little bit better so you can see it. And today it is standing empty. So again, if you're looking for a repair shop, something to check out. We're going to jump across the street now to 1403. This used to be a Clark Super 100 station back in 1956. The unique thing about this building, it had an angular roof. The front was higher than what the back of the roof was. It kind of was at that slope, but this was the Clark station. There's the building in 2003. And I'm missing a slide in there, but today it is now a Chips. That building was taken down and it is now a Chips hamburger place, fast food. So just a little bit of the history going on there. We're going to jump back across the street now to 1504 through 1508. And in the late 1980s, this was Mauer's direct service. It's across to the south is our Dairy Queen. This building has changed over the years as well. You can see that there were 3 bays, at least off to the right-hand side. Marshfield Oil Company came in there for a short period of time, and now it is a car wash. We're going to go across the street. You can see Mauer's sign in the background. They were off to the right. But on this side of Central Avenue, we had the Pure Service Station. And I don't have a date exactly for that picture. If anybody can help me out with that, it would be greatly appreciated. But you can see a portion of our Dairy Queen off on the left-hand side. And this is that site today. It's actually taken over by a portion of the I-State truck service. That is not the only part of the truck service. We're going to look at some of the other buildings shortly, but where 1601, and you can see an address change there, it's now Rodis Avenue. That would have been the site of where that station was. Going just a little bit farther to the south, same side of the road, we have Hills Skelly Station back in 1968. Again, another view of it, not quite so clear, but again, another view of it. And then sometime during that same year, it became the Shell Station. And again, this is that spot today out in the parking lot where the trucks are parked for the I-State Truck Center. As I said, the I-State Truck Center takes up an awful lot of real estate out there right now. And that was formerly where V&H was located. We're going to jump over to South Maple. Don't usually remember seeing wrecking yards in town, but we had one, and it was for autos. This was John Weber's wrecking yard back in 1951. It closed in 1965. And here's a picture, I believe, of John and some of his cars a few years later. This was from in the 1960s. Way back in the far distance off on the left-hand side, you can see our old power plant, which is no longer there. And this is the area today as you look at it, this front area, plus where the building is sitting, is the area where the wrecking yard was. All right, I'm jumping down onto South Highway 13, just outside of the city limits. And I'm going to ask for anybody who can help me with this one. This is a picture of the Kelly Tire Service. About mid-1950 or the mid-1950s. This building burnt down, and I have some pictures from the newspaper when it burnt in 1966 in March. And the story that goes along with one of the pictures, and there's also another one, never really gives me a specific where this specific tire shop was located. We have an address of 10828 South Highway 13. That is not a current address because the fire numbers have all changed. So that is not a current fire number. That was an old address from back in 1966. But the story goes that they were just to the south of the Marshfield city limits. From the best of what I can figure out, the city limits at that point would have been on 29th Street. And I talked with Bryce Hembrook today at City Hall, and he agreed with me that that was probably where the city limits were. In the story, it talks about they were able to hook up to the fire hydrant to get Marshfield water, even though this was out of the city limits. They ran hoses for about 250 yards to get some water to the fire. Didn't help it at all, but it kind of gives you an idea. So from 29th Street to the south, about 250 yards is kind of what we're trying to put together. But if anybody really knows the exact location, please let me know. And there we go for today. I'm not sure where it is. We're going to jump up to the north side of Central Avenue. Here we have Gordy's Sales and Service from 1974. And today it is now Brown's Automotive Service. Again, after some nice additions to their building. There have been some other businesses in there as well, but today it is Brown's. We're going to go up a little bit farther. This is from back in the 1980s. This is up on the corner of McMillan and North Central on the east side of the road. This is not what you're going to see there today. This picture was from back in the 1980s. This is the Marewood Citgo self-serve gas station. And there was a hotel just off behind it, I believe. Today, basically from that same angle that that first picture was taken, you're going to see the backside of the Advanced Auto Parts. And I believe we're in the parking lot for one of the Baltus gas stations or BP stations. We're going to kind of look kitty corner across to the northwest. For those of you that remember back in 1987, Marshfield did have a Kickapoo station, and that's where it was located. That was luckily a picture that we kind of came across that one of our genealogists, Lorraine Marquis, bless her heart, went around town and took lots and lots of different pictures of just odd things. But her pictures are of things that many times are no longer around. And so we appreciate the time that she took at that time to take some of these pictures and document for us. So Lorraine, you're up there. Hopefully you're watching. And today, this is what that intersection is like. I'm actually on the corner looking kitty corner across the intersection. I'm on the corner where Advanced Auto Parts is. And that building, the Sears building off over on the behind the cars there with that white center is about approximately where the Kickapoo station once stood. We're going to move up just another little bit up the road on the same, actually across the street. For those of you that know where our Walmart is, Walmart actually had a Murphy gas station out in front of it towards Central Avenue. And behind it, even closer to Central, you can see our Weiler's gas station, which the Weiler station is still there. But Murphy's is no longer. It actually went out of business in 2007. And here's just another quick little photo of what it looked like at that time. And here's today. Murphy's is completely gone. It's back to the parking lot for Walmart, and that Black Friday, usually the cars are parked all the way from Walmart all the way out to Weiler's almost. So luckily they have the space back. We're going to jump a little bit farther to the east now. We're going to look at Peach Street or Peach Avenue. Here we have the Marshfield Co-op back in the 1970s. In 2000, it was the Senex station. 2002, still the Senex station. And then they started doing construction for the underpass for our new boulevard. You can still see Senex is there. However, with all of the changes that took place, it went out of business. And back farther, the Senex was actually located up towards the front in this parking lot. But back behind now is the Central Wisconsin Country Store. Here we're going to go back into town just a little bit. We're still out on the east side, 604. This is the Louis Trozen Company, or L. Trozen Company, and his little gas station. Well, it wasn't so little. He actually, as time went on, he became a Dodge Plymouth dealer, and it got bigger. So you can see how his business grew. This was up into the 1950s. Unfortunately, that building is no longer around, nor those beautiful cars. One of the businesses that did build up in that area was the Wood County Unified Services. Again, this is one of Lorraine's pictures that document another business that was on that site back in 2009. This business was torn down to make way for our new Marshfield Fire and Rescue Department, which is a beautiful building, just beautiful. But again, some of our buildings and businesses had to go to the wayside to make room for progress. Here we're out on East 4th Street, a little bit farther out at 1207. We're looking at the Weir Oil and Bulk Plant from back in 1983. Weir sold out to Baltus. Again, that Baltus name is popping up. Baltus, as I said, was one of the movers and shakers here in town when it came to the automotive industry. But this is what it looked like right at sale time when Baltus took it over. He changed it into a self-serve mart. Again, what it looked like in 1985. By 1986, the snow is gone, thank goodness, but the mart is still there. Again, what it looked like in 2000. And then by 2001, it is going to be raised. And again, our boulevard actually takes back off the back corner of the building. And so the whole building had to go down. And this is the site, what it looks like today. On the back side of that fence is the boulevard. And this is where the car is sitting, is kind of on East 4th. And then as you come around the curve, you go down onto Washington. We're going to jump across Central Avenue and go out to the west side. Again, this is another one of my questions that I haven't been able to find a home for yet. This was from the 1921 city directory for the Yellowstone Garage. It was home of the famous Studebaker cars. Now, I did some research and tried to find out exactly where this was. It gives us the address, 600 West B Street, which was now Blodgett Street. And I went out there looking for it, and I found a building that has been there for years and years and years, probably back before 1921. It is the neighborhood bar. Now, if you notice off on, and this is purely speculation on my part, but you can see the car garages located over on the right-hand side of the neighborhood bar. I'm kind of guessing that that might have been the site of where during the 1940s, or excuse me, during the 1920s, was where during the war effort and everything else, that maybe that's where the garage was located. The bar has always been there. So again, exactly how that fits together, we're not sure, but it's got the same address and I need help. So thank you. We're going to go out to a little bit farther out now to the west, out on Arnold Street. This is Cliff Eckes's Cycle and Arco Service. This was from the 1974 city directory for Marshfield. Don't go looking for it today because our boulevard has eaten up some of the property, and actually part of that building probably would be going down the bank onto the boulevard today. So that's the site today. There's a sidewalk up on top, and then the hill starts going down towards the boulevard. Another business that I was looking at was the Badger State Tire Center. There have been different tire shops in there. Cheryl has been in there for a while, but back in 1978, they were granted a permit to build extra storage and extra service area. This was their grand opening back in 1978. Again, as I said, through later years, it's been taken over by other tire centers. Cheryl was one of them. But if you go looking for today, you are going to find an empty parking lot beside Eagles. Cheryl Tire was located on the back side of that parking lot, just on this side of those houses. There's a street there, but in the parking lot is where you would have found that tire shop. Back out on that, going back out to Arnold again, back from 1964, R&R Rambler Center opened up, and they added on in 1969. According to the 1974 city directory, it was then known as Radlinger American and Jeep Incorporated, and it was at 1207 West Arnold. Also in the 1974 city directory, right next door to it at 1209 was Radlinger Chrysler Plymouth. And here in 1973, you can kind of see what Radlingers looked like a little bit more. In August of 73, Wally Reek bought out Radlingers, took control, had their grand opening in 1973. Reek terminated their new car franchise with Chrysler in 1979, and February of the next year, Reek Auto and Schwinn Cyclery opened. So again, Reek stayed there. Radlinger was gone. And part of the situation, as described in one of the articles, was that because of gas prices going up so high at that point in time, that bicycles were being used a lot more. And so they wanted to get in on that. This is 1207 and actually 1209. It's a very long building today out on West Arnold, or actually West Veterans Parkway. It's now been renamed after the parkway or boulevard went through. It is home to Apria Health Center or healthcare. I want to thank everybody for bearing with me tonight. Thank you for your interest in Marshfield's automotive industry of lost buildings. And again, as Bethany mentioned earlier, stay tuned for part 2, which is going to be on May 10th. And for those of you that have any additions or corrections or pictures or anything that you want to share to help document part of Marshfield's history, please let me know. There's my email address and my phone number. Again, Bethany, I know I went late. I apologize, but so much to cover.
It happens sometimes. So long as everybody was able to stay, and those that had to cut out early, they're able to watch back what they missed in our video that will be available online. We are going to take a few minutes to really quickly address any questions or comments anybody has. I have from Jennifer Witzel. For some reason, I thought that the slant roof gas station is the little building on the corner of 14th and Central, tucked in by Jean's Furniture. It was a car dealership, I think it is right now, and a satellite TV dealer before as well. And then Chips is right next door.
I believe, if I remember right, there is another building to the north of where Clark's station was, and it was a consolidated station. I didn't spend any time on that one, but there was another station to the north, and that is where the car dealership is right now. And so things do kind of change, and it's hard to exactly pinpoint where things were, but to the best of my knowledge, that little slanted building is now kind of where Chips is at. Anything else, Bethany?
We had Mary Schlafke and Kim Krieger both said thank you. It was great research. They enjoyed the program. I did have one person that raised a hand. I don't see it up anymore. Either they figured out what they were trying to do, or they did not actually have something. They just hit a wrong button. I haven't seen any other questions come through, but since we're going to be doing a second part for this, if you think of any questions, please feel free to bring those questions with you next time you stop in, or to send them in to us, and we will see if we can answer them.
And if you happen, and if anybody happens to have additions or corrections or things that they want to share, please let me know. I can kind of address those on May 10th when I do the second half. And hopefully that part won't be quite as long.
We will certainly find out.
I want to thank everybody for bearing with us tonight. Again, we had a lot of information, a lot of things that we covered, and we tried to be as accurate as we could, but we're always looking for help if anybody wants to share some information with us. Thank you.
One more time, thank you to everybody for joining us this evening. I hope that you were able to hear some interesting information, learn a little bit of Marshfield's history, and I hope you will join us for the next one. As I mentioned, I will be sending out a follow-up email tomorrow from Zoom, which will include the link for the second part, because it is a completely separate thing that we are doing. You will need to make sure you register for it. If you're not able to make it work for your schedule, absolutely, it will be available on our YouTube, and I have the YouTube set up so that you will be able to find that link as well. I just have a few more things. I want to make sure I don't have any other questions that have popped up. I do not. Excellent. Thank you to everybody for joining us. We hope we'll see you next